Listen to me, kid. The others inside you. You're letting them push you around.
X-Men Evolution is not the most fondly remembered television adaptation of Marvel's Merry Mutants, but it should be. In an era where it was a struggle to get anyone to take superhero stories seriously, Evolution did what no one else was willing to do. It took the developed characters, positioned them in exciting and interesting stories, and most importantly, it let them evolve. But before we get too deep into today's episode, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Nerdstalgic for more videos just like this. Premiering in the fall of 2000, X-Men Evolution was coming only 3 years after the end of the beloved X-Men the Animated Series. While that show has sustained a cultish devotion from an army of fans, X-Men Evolution's fans are more few and far between. Co-created by Marty Eisenberg, Robert N. Skur, and David Weiss, the show sought to accomplish something distinctly different from the recently departed previous incarnation. They wanted to make a show that was both slightly more mature, but also very stylish and modern.
The theme of the X-Men is basically prejudice and hatred and people mistrusting these mutants.
Normal is what you truly are. Never think otherwise.
How did the creatives attempt to reposition the X-Men for the 2000s? They mixed up the initial formula a lot. They also chose to tell their stories over a more protracted and serialized narrative. The pilot, titled Strategy X, starts with a few of the characters already a part of Professor X's Institute for Gifted Youngsters. We follow a returning Wolverine, who's been away somewhere, returning to the grounds of the Xavier compound, and a newly introduced mutant Nightcrawler as he attempts to come to terms with his new life living in a mansion with other kids with powers and attending a nearby high school, Bayville High. In this continuity, the kids at Xavier's attend a normal high school, which Mystique is initially the principal of. Cue the wacky high school hijinks.
Let me help. Hey! What's the matter, Summers? Afraid to open your eye?
From here, the show introduces 1 or 2 mutants per episode. Kitty, Spike, Rogue, and the other principal characters get their own spotlight introduction episodes, as opposed to the X-Men the Animated Series pilot, Night of the Sentinels, which just throws you into the deep end with what feels like 500 mutants and hopes that the army of kids watching can keep up.
Mall violence. Film at 11. Oh, God!
Evolution is not just a reaction away from the accomplishments of the previous animated X-Men show though. It's also mimicking key creative elements from the live-action version of the characters. The producers and Kids WB were understandably hoping that X-Men Evolution would carry on the tradition of being commercially successful. Evolution had a substantial merchandising push. Action figures from Toy Biz, both Taco Bell and Burger King running kids meals promotions, and even a video game. And despite the show's obviously lofty goals, the first season doesn't quite achieve the promise of what could be. It's basically an adventure of the week, but with way too much emphasis put on the teen shenanigans. The show pretty quickly drops most of the school hijinks elements and lets the characters progress into something closer to what we saw in the comics. Notably, the second season introduces the New Mutants. In this incarnation, it's slightly different from the classic Chris Claremont version though. It's Iceman, Cannonball, Magma, Jubilee, Berserker, Sunspot, Boom Boom, Wolfsbane, and Multiple Man, allowing our core cast to existentially move up a rung, and this new cast of characters take over as the younger generation really accentuates the theme of evolution. Granted, much like the title of the Season 2 opener Growing Pains, or most of the show's obsession with getting us to care about a romance between Avalanche and Kitty, it doesn't always work. But when it does, it's fantastic. Case in point, how Apocalypse's entrance is slowly unfurled. Season 2, Episode 10, Mindbender, has a stinger at the end that introduces the idea of a gate, which in some way is going to be used to resurrect Apocalypse. This storyline isn't advanced again until Season 3, Episode 9, Under Lock and Key. By the time we get to Season 3, Episode 13, Dark Horizon Part 2, it's one of the most satisfying the villain has won cliffhangers that a Marvel show has ever succeeded in pulling off.
Since nothing could withstand his wrath, on Sabanur took the name Apocalypse.
In Sabanur's eventual grand entrance is so much more impactful because we've been building to it for literal years. And it only gets crazier from there. The show's 2-part finale, Ascension, Parts 1 and 2, is nothing short of jaw-dropping. It showcases 4 teams of characters globetrotting in an effort to avert a doomsday scenario being carried out by Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen, a brainwashed team of Professor X, Mystique, Magneto, and Storm. Do people expect to see this type of third act team up now? Yes. Avengers Endgame has ruined us all, but in October of 2003, X-Men Evolution was in a league all its own. The series ends in an almost picture-perfect coda. Professor X gives a solemn farewell to the viewers. In classic Claremont fashion, Xavier ruminates on what the future could hold for the X-Men. Magneto leading the New Mutants, Jean becoming the Phoenix, and the X-Men fully reaching their potential, which, because this was 2003, was them wearing their all-black uniforms from the Ultimate comics. X-Men Evolution captured the experience of following a long-form superhero comic, witnessing the characters' ebbs and flows, and becoming deeply invested in the soap operas of these characters' lives. Ironically, the fact that this new iteration of the X-Men didn't have the booming toy sales supporting it actually allowed it to accomplish something that the animated series never could.
It's time we recognize that all mutants are potentially dangerous to mankind.
Get a life.
It truly pushed the characters into new places. Tragically, this freedom would also be the show's undoing. Poor toy sales and sagging ratings caused Evolution to end after 4 seasons. When asked why the show ended, Robert Insker said, "I don't think it was a lack of faith in the series, I think it was more of a business aesthetic kind of decision." But it wasn't just the world building or maturity that X-Men Evolution is remembered for. This show also introduced multiple completely original X-Men to the greater world of Marvel. X-23, introduced in Season 3, Episode 11, would become a mainstay of the X-Universe. She would appear in both the comics and the live-action films, and even don the mantle of Wolverine for the critically acclaimed Tom Taylor and David Lopez all-new Wolverine run. The other notable original character from the show is Storm's nephew, Spike. He hasn't really taken roots in the broader Marvel fandom in the same way, but he should. He's a great character with loads of potential, even after they did this to him.
This wasn't your fault. Let's go.
Overall, Evolution has kind of fallen in between the cracks of X fandom. It's just weird enough and offbeat enough in the early part of the show to seem like it's not what hardcore animated X fans are looking for, but once you get past that, it becomes something else entirely. X-Men Evolution allows you so much time with the characters. It lets you truly get to know them and delve into their backstories in ways that other adaptations of the comics rarely do. Take for instance Season 2, Episode 11, Operation Rebirth, where we see Wolverine and Captain America saving a young Magneto from a concentration camp in World War II. For Season 4, Episode 4, Sins of the Sun, where we learn about Professor X's son, David, and his multiple personalities.
David, I, want you to meet Charles Xavier.
Father?
While X-Men the Animated Series gets more credit for introducing legions to the joys of X-Men, X-Men Evolution is actually a much more interesting adaptation of the beloved characters, because of what it changes. X-Men the Animated Series was produced under a very strict schedule and budgetary range. Large swaths of the animated series are very undercooked. Go back and rewatch their adaptations of Days of Future Past. It's like a wiki article that features Bishop having a hairpin motivational turn that would give even the most forgiving of viewers whiplash. Whereas Evolution treated the viewer with respect. Look at how it handles Rogue. On the surface, the show is just mimicking a depowered Rogue like from the movies. But over the course of the show, she has an arc where she becomes arguably the most powerful mutant on the show. She literally is the reason why Apocalypse is resurrected, and she's then forced to utilize all the powers of the X-Men in order to be the one who stops Apocalypse.
Evolution is upon us, and there is nothing you can do to stop it.
X-Men Evolution built on its themes and character dynamics over the course of its run in a way seldom seen in children's programming. What other show would set up the arrival of its big bad almost 2 full seasons before he actually shows up? None. And that's why this show deserves better. Unfortunately, barring some massive spike in eBay sales for Burger King mini CD-ROMs, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. And well, that's all we have for this episode. Which is your favorite episode of X-Men Evolution? Let us know in the comments down below, and as always, please like and subscribe to Nerdstalgic for more videos just like this.